Good evening. My name is Sue Smerrick, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County. I welcome you to our online forum featuring candidates for the Michigan House of Representatives, District 32. The candidates will be on the ballot in the primary election on Tuesday, August 2nd. For more than 100 years, the League of Women Voters has worked to expand voter rights, educate voters, and shape and influence legislation at the local, state, and national levels. We are pleased to sponsor these forums. The League is a nonpartisan civic organization that encourages informed and active participation by all citizens in government. The League works to increase understanding of major policy issues and seeks to strengthen and broaden knowledge about our form of government and democracy. While the League does not support candidates or parties, we do take stands on issues we have studied. One of the League's most important goals is to assist voters to make informed choices at the polls, and thus we bring you tonight's forum. Our moderator this evening is Jeff Smerrick, who will explain the format and get us started. Jeff?
Thank you, Sue. And now it's my honor to introduce three of the candidates running for the Michigan House of Representatives, District 32, Marshall Averill, Roderick Casey, and Isaac London. Three additional candidates are also running in the Democratic primary for Michigan House of Representatives, District 32. Two of the candidates, Robin Lynn McCoy and Jimmy Wilson Jr., are participating in a separate forum session in order to provide all candidates with ample time to respond to questions. Carol Smith, also a candidate, was invited to participate in this forum but did not respond. Thank you, candidates, very much for participating in this forum. The forum this evening will follow this format. Each candidate will have an opening statement of up to 1 minute. Each candidate will have a closing statement of up to 90 seconds. In between, I will ask questions which came from the community. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. At appropriate times, the timer will raise a sign on her screen indicating the time remaining, 30 seconds, and then stop. If you have used up your time, you will be allowed to finish your sentence, and then your microphone will be muted so the other candidates have an equal opportunity to participate. The candidates will be speaking in alphabetical order by last name. Depending on the number of questions, all candidates will have an opportunity to be the first or the last to answer the questions. So let's go to the opening statements. We're now ready for your opening statement. Mr. Averill.
Hello, good evening. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to you all for the wonderful work you do, not only to put on candidate forums like this, but to produce documents like the empowerment cards. Those efforts, I believe, are extremely important to making sure that we have informed voters. So a little bit about me. I like to be considered a public servant and an educator. My career started in 2014 when I spent a year with AmeriCorps doing financial education work in our community. I spent another 3 years with United Way continuing that work, being recognized by the state legislator. After that, I joined the coaching staff at Washtenaw Community College, where today I support about 35 local high school graduates in their pursuit of a college degree, whether they attend Washtenaw Community College or they attend a university elsewhere. Thank you, and I look forward to the rest of our forum.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. And now, Mr. Casey, may we have your opening statement, sir?
Yes, my name is Roderick Casey, and first of all, I'd like to thank the Women League of Voters for inviting me today. As a delegate, I have been a delegate elected for over 15 years, several times. I've been with the Washtenaw County Democratic Party for over 19 years, and I've been a Democrat for 30 years. As a delegate, I have trained vigorously to become a state representative. As a delegate, I also have written up resolutions that has affected the county greatly. For instance, I wrote up resolutions that was referring to the drug abuse as well as mental illness. As you may know, we just got $2 million, 2 billion, excuse my language, 2 billion, okay, from the stimulus package through the United States, $2 billion in March. And just this month, we got another $3.5 billion. I want to continue to bring funders in like this here for the community. I have been a long time community here. I have
Thank you,
had
Mr.
kids
Casey.
and grandkids.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. And finally, may we have your opening statement, Mr. London?
Yes, I want to say thank you first to the League of Women Voters for having me on. And I also want to say congratulations to Mr. Casey, Mr. Averill for being also candidates and going forth within this position to try to make things better. My name is Isaac London. I have been a teacher, administrator, athletic coach, a community advocate in the community for over 30 years. I have been active within the community as far as voter registration. The last 2 or 3 years, that has been my primary focus, is voter registration of young people. I have vast experience in the educational sector, understanding what needs to be done in education and as well as in the nonprofit sector, where I spent many years trying to help people. I've spent my personal and professional career in dedicating my life to helping those, the disenfranchised, marginalized, and unrepresented persons within our community.
Thank you, Mr. London. And thank you, candidates all. And now to the questions. As a reminder, I will read the question once, and it will not be repeated unless requested. We will start with Mr. Casey for the first question. As a result of the 2022 redistricting, it's possible that there may be a shift in the composition of the Michigan legislature. On what 2 significant issues do you think the legislature could reach a new consensus?
Well, for one thing, the redistricting really wasn't that significant to me because we just have a little Pittsfield, a little Belleville. I believe that it would not have too much effect on the legislature.
Thank you, sir. Mr. London, the same question. I think I need to unmute. There you go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I firmly disagree with redistricting. I believe that was some of the ploys used by Republicans in the largely Republican Congress and House of Representatives within Michigan to try to steer votes within the Republican Party because they know they've been devastated lately, especially in southeastern Michigan. I believe another law that'll be in effect in that would be affected by the redistricting is the laws involving gun control and also various laws within our schools that dictate how our schools are financed and how our schools see the budgeting and how our schools see districting within allowing students from various other districts, school of choice, if you will, to be go to those various districts. So I believe education would be impacted, and I believe voting would be impacted with redistricting.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Averill, same question to you.
So you alluded to the fact that redistricting has opened up the possibility that is really monumental for Michigan. There is a chance that Democrats can actually have some control over our legislature for the first time in, I believe, over 40 years. And to me, that's pretty exciting. 2 areas that I think we could see some actual change in, as Mr. London said, around education. There has been a push by conservatives to really allow school of choice, to promote charter schools. And I think that Democrats controlling our legislator would allow us to, at the very least, put a moratorium on those charter schools, if not begin to roll them back, so that we can keep our public schools funded, and also gun control. That is obviously a very hot button issue at the moment. And it's one that, while there are some Republicans that are willing to cross party lines, it is spotty at best. And I think hopefully if Democrats are able to take control of the legislature, we may be able to get some common sense legislation pushed through in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. Mr. London, you have the next question. In your opinion, are voting rights under assault? If so, what steps should be taken to protect voting rights, including the voting rights of people of color?
Yes, I firmly believe that voting rights are under attack. Many believe that the way to stop this is doing what we're doing as citizens, trying to get out and let people know they need to get out and vote. They need to get out and don't be complacent in the things that are going on within our community. Let your community leaders let you know, let your senators, let your House of Representatives, congressmen know that you are there and you're there to be impactful, and you want to vote, and you want to do whatever you can to encourage others to vote. That's really not been so persistent in the last 3 years in registering, particularly younger people in voting, and those who have not been traditionally brought into the registration or voting process, letting them know that it does matter if you vote, and it's necessary for you to vote in order to have changes within our society and some of the things they're trying to do to take voting rights away. And it's still to this day, we're still the only country that has to have American citizens vote on whether other American citizens can vote. So I believe there needs to be some statutes in place and discussions on that as well.
Thank you, Mr. London. Mr. Averill, same question to you, sir.
So absolutely. There's a petition going around right now, sort of falsely labeled Secure My Vote, that is being used to, one, very deceitfully collect signatures, telling people that this is in some way designed to protect the integrity of our elections, when in reality, this is a way to further restrict people, particularly people of color, from the ballot box. Republicans have put forth 39 or 40 different bills recently that are doing things like restricting the location for ballot drop-offs or mail-in voting, and on and on and on. So I think it's very clear that these rights are under attack. And I think in order to protect them, we need to both play defensively. Our legislators, our community leaders need to be out in our communities very loudly explaining in simple terms exactly what petitions like Secure My Vote are trying to do and how they are trying to work around our governor by utilizing constitutional loopholes. And I think that we need to actively protect these rights going forward by listening to our county and our municipal clerks, who have laid forth exactly what they need. They need funding to be able to staff polling places, and they need to be able to dig into those mail-in ballots a little bit sooner, so that we don't run into the same types of problems that we ran into in 2020 in regards to validating those mail-in ballots. So again, I think there's no doubt that our voting rights are under attack. And I think in order to preserve those, we need to inform our communities, and we need to also make sure that we are putting forth policy and legislation so that the mechanisms that make our elections run smoothly are supported and well-resourced.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. And now, Mr. Casey, the same question to you, sir. Oh, Mr. Casey, you're muted. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. As a legislator, I definitely would draft up a law that would guarantee it become a part of the Michigan U.S. Constitution to protect our votes, to give us the right to vote. A lot of people don't know today that we do not have that constitutional right. It's just voting. So right now, my organization that I'm in is passing around a petition to also go that direction. But if they don't not successful in getting it passed, and not the one you're talking about, Mr. Avery, they don't get that passed, as a legislator, I will push for it to get it passed. Also, I would see to it that people will have access to their vote, because many in the Black community and other communities of color do not trust our voting system because they cannot confirm that they voted for this person or for that person. And so I would like to see that we get a porthole funding for the clerk office to create an electronic porthole where people can go back and look and see what they voted in, where they passed in current voting. So these are just some of the things I would like to do as a legislator to assure people. Also, the fact is that right now it costs you for voters recount. I want to eliminate that. Anyone who's applied for office and available for office should be able to get that free, because they leave it open only for rich people to run. All right, a regular Jane or Joe have to pay large sums of money that they don't have, and that's not part of our government. Everyone should have access to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Mr. Averill, you have the next question. Please explain your stand on gun safety laws in Michigan. What achievable steps would you take to address community concerns related to Michigan gun safety and gun violence?
So, so the first thing that I would like to state is that I am not anti-firearm and I am not against the Second Amendment, but far more than I believe we need to protect that constitutional right, I know in my heart that we need to protect our community, right? Like I'm sick and tired of reading about children cut down in their schools and people cut down at the grocery. And so I know that we have to do something. There are very common sense pieces of legislation that have been proposed. And Jeff, I really liked that caveat you put in there, realistic, because unfortunately we live in a society where not everything that I think we should do is going to be feasible from a policy perspective, but there are some things that are realistic, right? I think that mandating and enforcing realistic laws around how firearms are managed and locked up in a household, particularly households with children, is a great place to start. The data shows that a handgun waiting period leads to a decrease in violence. I think we should institute those things, right? There are very common sense tools that have bipartisan support, limited, but bipartisan support. And so that is at the very least a starting point. But at the end of the day, we have to do something, because we cannot continue to have the same story being told over and over and over again, because it is horrifying. And quite frankly, it is emotionally exhausting.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. And Mr. Casey, the same question to you, sir. Mr. Casey? Thank you.
Okay, I'm here. Okay. First of all, I would draft a law that would make it illegal to purchase a gun, anyone to purchase a gun that is under 25, unless they're in the service, because we know that many of our youth are in prison now because their brain was not developed until around that age. So I would see to it that the age limit would have to raise before they go and get guns, okay? The second thing I would do is that we have technology now. They have guns now where nobody can shoot it, but the person that bought it, the owner with a fingerprint, will allow it to be locked or unlocked, all right? And then the guns that's stolen, I will have chips put in them so that they could be traced to where they stolen or wherever they're being taken to. We have modern technology that can be utilized, and it's time to utilize it. Also, with schools and concerts and other events, I will recommend and demand that we have metal detectors in the school, metal detectors at concerts, metal detectors at events. And when it comes to our government officials, that they cannot take these into the government buildings. No, because we have issues with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. And Mr. London, the same question to you, sir.
Yes, to answer your question, there are some realistic, as you said, maybe some realistic things that we know that we can do right off top. I would introduce, once again, putting pressure on the individuals who we know we have a bipartisan effort for extensive background checks. And also, I do agree, Mr. Casey, we should have law. I would introduce a law that would state that no one is able to buy an assault rifle, which is not covered under the Constitution. The Second Amendment is not, assault rifles, weapons of war are not covered under that constitutional law. I agree in the Second Amendment. My father was a hunter. Anyone should be able to hunt at their free will. I do agree with that. But at the same time, we do need safety. And then thirdly, we need to be able to introduce also laws that would put funding back into mental health for our citizens, and understanding that the importance of mental health. Just for example, Governor Abbott speaking upon in Texas, the guns that went off in Texas, the gunman went off in Texas, he cut $210 million for funding for mental health. So how you could say on one hand, it's a mental health issue, but then you cut funding for mental health. So we need to, once again, reinvest in mental health for our citizens, get on board for laws that make it illegal, once again, for anyone under the age of 25 to be able to buy an assault rifle or a weapon in general, and then get together, try to come together across the aisle on things we know that 90% of Americans agree on, and extensive background checks.
Thank you, Mr. London. Mr. Casey, you have the next question. Please identify the top 3 concerns that citizens in House District 32 have expressed to you. If you are elected, choose one of these 3 concerns and describe the steps you would take to address that issue.
Okay, the number one issue right now that 32 district residents are concerned with is a recreation center for this area, because the kids do not have a recreation center and they're all clustering up in gangs. And I have seen this myself. So that'll be my number one priority. They have been crying for over years, and no one has taken action for it. All right, my second one is to close the generation wealth gap. All right, and that means to bring the minimum wages up towards today's index. Okay, today's index is not $15 an hour. It is $26 an hour. All right. And back in the 50s and 60s, a person with one-person income could pay for a home, a car, and their kids to college with income with the regular index. So I intend on pushing for that and have the government to subsidize the difference. And if they give them $15, let the government subsidize the other $11. All right. And affordable housing, low interest, beginner new homes. Beginner new homes is so important because our kids today and young adults need homes, not just apartments, okay? My age group, we can have apartments, all right, and limited income or limited rent level. But for the youth, they need homes so they can have assets to be able to send their kids to college, so they can have responsibility, so they can have respect for their communities, so they can have respect for themselves. They need homes, affordable homes. So I support affordable homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Mr. London, the same question to you, sir.
Well, in actuality, I'm actually going to piggyback off of Mr. Casey because we share many of the same ideas. My first priority would be one for economic growth and development and investment within our community, make it possible for those who want to pursue entrepreneurial opportunities that they have access to capital to pursue those economic opportunities. And also, once again, as Mr. Casey stated, going and making sure that we have living wage that comes up to the index of living wage as we have right now, as it consists. Wages have not increased in almost 40 years, but living expenses have increased almost 40% in that time. So we know we need to make living wage possible for our citizens, and as well as accessibility to education. I believe everyone in our district, in District 32, every high school student should graduate or have the opportunity or have the choice to graduate with an associate's degree. Now, if you choose to go into more traditional outlets, or whatever you choose to go to, career technical development from that point on to develop skills, that's great. But I want each and every student to at least graduate with an associate's degree to have the choice to do whatever they want to pursue in life to make themselves successful.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Averill, same question to you.
I think it's clear, you know, the biggest thing that our community is hungry for is opportunity. I think that was a theme that came through with both of the previous candidates, and I agree. That is the thing that people, no matter where they are at, are hungry for, is the opportunity to improve. And I think that there are a couple things that I would do to help them achieve that. I believe that our community colleges, not just here in Washtenaw County, but all across the state, should be absolutely free. Tuition should not be a barrier to access these wonderful institutions that allow people to uplift and empower themselves. I also know that we need access to healthcare. I would propose that the state enters the healthcare market and offers a public option to our citizens. I don't believe that we need to be beholden to CEOs and shareholders of these large insurance companies. I think that we can offer a product that is comparable, if not better, for a cheaper cost. And police reform, criminal justice reform, right? We need to have a way for people to accrue good time so that they can actually be rehabilitated and released from prison, so they can rejoin society and take control of their lives again. There has to be training. There has to be mental health services available to our brothers and sisters that are incarcerated. But I also think on the street side, there are some very common sense measures that we can take to help restore some of the trust that has definitely been eroded between our police force and our citizens. Simple things like requiring that law enforcement agencies release their body camera footage within 21 days of any complaint in an unedited format. These are very, very simple steps that can help restore some of that trust that has unfortunately been eroded.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. This will be the last question for all three candidates. Mr. London, you have the next question. Please describe a specific example of how you made a difficult decision because of a core value that's important to you.
Well, that's very simple, and I'm pretty sure that the other candidates may be experiencing the same thing. I received several letters from the NRA saying they will fund my campaign and give me several of dollars if I just not even switch over to the Republican Party, but just state that I'm not for certain gun laws and I'm kind of in tune with their beliefs and how their ethics. And I firmly sent a letter saying, I do not need your services. I do not need your money. I don't want your money. You would not have me in your pocket, believe you me. So I believe in it. I said, like I said, the Second Amendment, but there's regardless of how much money you offer me, they could offer me literally millions of dollars. I still wouldn't have taken it, because that's just how I believe in that gun control and the harm that is bring our country, and the stand that we need to take firmly on that.
Thank you, Mr. London. Mr. Averill, same question to you, sir.
Mr. London, we've never met before, but if we get the chance, I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with you. So yeah, I work in a space that is all about empowering young people of color, empowering young people that have come from low to moderate socioeconomic backgrounds, and empowering young people that are first generation college students. There is, in a space of scholarship giving from time to time, what I would call white saviorship, right? This idea that we are helping little poor brown kids, and look how wonderful it is that we are uplifting them. I, on a very regular basis, demand that my students are treated with nothing but respect and empowerment from day one until the day that they graduate and far beyond that. Because I know that if you want to empower people, you have to do it every single day. You cannot pick and choose when you want to do it. Unfortunately, though, that is a stance that not everyone likes, and I do catch flack for it, but I go to sleep very comfortably every single night because I know that I do what is right for the people that need me to do it for them, because they don't get invited to the table. And until they are invited to the table to defend themselves, I will continue to do it, no matter how much flack or how much it causes people to think that I may be abrasive or whatever. Again, because until they have a seat at the table, I will demand that they are treated with nothing less than absolute respect.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. And Mr. Casey, same question to you, sir.
Yes. In fact, I'm known as one of the first progressives in the Democratic Party because I brought up issues no one else wanted to bring up. The incarceration of economically challenged citizens, all right? I have recently went to the state convention in Detroit, and during the convention, before we did all the voting on them, I hollered at the governor and told her, do not spend no $10 million on no bracelet for prisoners who gonna be in prison. They're gonna be right in their cell. If you're gonna spend that $10 million, spend it so for Michigan prison reentry. Spend it where they can get housing, job training, mental illness and mental therapy. All right. This money should not go to these here private corporations. Okay, if you want to get a bracelet for them to be at home, that's fine, but not to be in jail. That just don't make sense. All right. I am known for going against the grain. I am known for bringing reality to the party. I am known for addressing issues that others are embarrassed to bring forward, because I grew up in this neighborhood. I love this neighborhood, and I plan on doing more for this neighborhood. That's just a part of my core values. All right. Anyone that knows me can tell you I do not hesitate to stand up for the community. I do not hesitate to tell someone when something is wrong or they doing something wrong. There's no reason why Michigan prison reentry should be down to $200,000 or $500,000 when my mentor, Elmer Wheeler Smith, brought in $50 million in just 12 years. They let Snyder cut it in half. Then they let the governor cut it some more. I will fight for this money. I will fight for whatever we have. All right. I am not just a negotiator, but I am a fighter, and I will fight.
Thank you, Mr. Casey, and candidates, all of you. Thank you for your excellent answers. This brings us to our closing statements now. And now it's time to begin with Mr. Averill. Mr. Averill, may we have your closing statement, sir?
Again, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. This process of running for office is one that is difficult, and is, if not for organizations like yourself offering an equal platform, I think that we as a population would be so uninformed due to no fault of our own. So thank you, not just as a candidate, but as a community member. The thing that I would like to leave you all with is this. I have, for my entire adult life, woken up every single day and gone to work for this community, whether it was as an AmeriCorps member, whether it was as a nonprofit professional, or whether it was as an educator. I work extremely hard, tirelessly, every single day, and I fight against whoever I need to fight against, so that the people that I go to work for have access to opportunities so that they can achieve whatever their life's goals are, be they big or be they small. And I do that, again, tirelessly. If elected, that is exactly what I intend to do. Work tirelessly so that my neighbors have access to all of the resources, all of the supports that exist in our wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Averill. And now, Mr. Casey, may we have your closing statement, sir? And you need to unmute.
Okay. All right. I would like to say that as your state legislator, I can identify with you. I can identify with the losses in Ypsilanti. I have lost a son to substance abuse and suicide just as well. But like I just told you, we got $5 billion, $5.5 billion on mental illness and substance abuse, all right, in the package the president just signed. I want to continue to bring in funding like that for the county. I want to continue to protect those fundings, but also to address other issues as well as the PFAs in the river. I want to get filters put on that. As I am a fighter, I do not play. I am no nonsense. I have helped many of our elected officials get in office, and now I have trained it, and now I'm ready to get here and serve you loyally up in Lansing just as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. And now, Mr. London, may we have your closing statement, sir?
Yes, first, once again, thank you for the opportunity. And secondly, thank you to Mr. Averill and Mr. Casey for being two candidates or two individuals who I'm running against. I can be more proud of running against you two individuals. You are of the upper standard of Ypsilanti and what Ypsilanti and Ypsilanti Township Superior Township stand for. So I'm very proud to be in the candidacy running against both of you. And let me also say that I have been a citizen within Ypsilanti Township and Superior Township as a teacher, as an administrator, as a coach, athletic coach, as a mentor, as a community advocate. Once again, registering individuals to vote for several years here, and that's been my primary focus, as well as community development and understanding the needs of the community. It says on my website, a real person who wants to solve real problems. I'm a real person. You can see me walking to Kroger. You could come up to me at Kroger on Whitaker and you can shake my hand. You can talk to me. You can see me at the gas station. You can see me with throughout the community at your local churches. You could come up and speak to me. I'm a real person. A vote for I is a vote for you. And that's exactly how I'm going to have my legislation. You have a direct line to someone, a real person, just like you, not a career politician, but someone who wants to make a difference and impact people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. London. And candidates, thanks to all of you so much for participating in this valuable session. Sue will now provide closing comments.
The League thanks all the candidates for participating in tonight's forum and those who contributed questions. All our candidates forums are available for streaming on your computer or smartphone. Go to our website, mylwv.org, and look for the link to the programs. In addition, the forums can be viewed on Ann Arbor's cable television news channel 13. Please urge your family, friends, and neighbors to watch these forums and share the links with them. For additional nonpartisan information on candidates and ballot issues, go to vote411.org. That's VOTE411.org. The League's voter resource guide covering local, state, and federal candidates, as well as current proposals that appear on your ballot. As a reminder, all voters are now eligible to cast an absentee ballot. In addition, while voters are encouraged to register ahead of time, Michigan law now provides for election day registration at your clerk's office. So just remember, whether by absentee ballot or in-person voting, make sure you vote in the August 2nd primary election. Good night.